All right, it's meteorologist Jamie Singleton with you here. It is 10:41. Actually made it somewhat on time. Looking at a lot of people on the stream. I like to see that. Please go ahead and share this out. This is live, so I want to be able to get this information out to as many people as possible because we're in for a long night tonight, and we still have conditions worsening here as we go by the minute, really. We've got the tropical storm force winds from Ian moving in, and you can see on the radar picture tonight lots in the way of rainfall occurring. Now, if you look from Roanoke County south into parts of Southside, that's where the heaviest of rain is, and this is actually a little bit farther to the north and west of the center of the storm. We still have tropical storm warnings in effect for North Carolina. They're shaded in red, and a massive couple of flash flood warnings that are in effect for Greensboro down through Raleigh, where they've had several inches of rain. Everywhere you see an icon is a report of a thunderstorm, a tropical storm force wind gust or a downed tree. So let's move out of North Carolina where it's windy there and move into our area. And notice these icons are really starting to add up here. So far it's the wind that's creating all the issues. In fact, I don't know if you can hear in the background, but I'll point my microphone. I've got about 30 to 50 feeds over the scanner coming in at one time, and they're all about pretty much power lines, arcing poles that are down, and tree limbs that are down, and blocking roads, and trees that are down as well. As we go throughout the night tonight, we're going to see a little bit more in the way of rain. So let me go ahead and get you over to the computer here, and I will zoom you in. I've got to think here for a second. I've got about 5 or 6 computers on. These are the current power outages. Areas hardest hit right now, and my power's been blinking here at the house. Again, please share this out so your neighbors can see it before the power goes out. We're looking at Henry County with over 2,200 outages, and parts of Carroll County. We've also got a significant number of outages there, 3,500, 38, And in the Patrick County, we've got 3,600 without power. Franklin County, again, we're blinking here at the house, 334. So far, so good overall, but you can see a handful of power outages there in the lighter blues. That's under 100 power outages out. When you get into the green areas, that's between 100 and 500 customers from AEP's footprint that are without power. Now, if you move down into North Carolina, you can see a large part of North Carolina without power. This is where Ian has pretty much tracked, going in from Myrtle Beach and Charleston all the way up through Florence and Bennettsville, moving very close to Greensboro and Winston-Salem and getting into our area as well. This is an overall look at Virginia. And again, you can see the hardest hit areas are from southwest parts of Southside now, southwest foothills, but they'll expand to the north as we go throughout the rest of the evening. So let's show you what's going on the weather map. I've got several of them to show you here. This is a look at the winds, where they're gusting and what they're gusting to, and this is over the past 6 hours or so. So let me get my telestrator out here, and you can see that we do have that overall track has come in from the beach, moving through Fayetteville and the Raleigh area, but you can see how widespread this wind field is. I mean, we can take it and we can pretty much draw 30 to 40 mile per hour winds in this whole area. What happens is, as a hurricane or tropical system makes landfall, initially the strongest wind is very close to the center. But what happens with time is, as it weakens, the winds actually expand outward. So there's actually a yin-yang to it. It's getting weaker, yes, but that strong wind, that inertial wind, takes a while before it diminishes, and it actually expands outward. And that's why we're seeing, you see there at Lynchburg, let's zoom into this area. Lynchburg has a 41 mile per hour gust right now at the airport there, 22 sustained out of the north, and it's a chilly wind. We've got temperatures that are only in the 50s and 40s. Roanoke is at 26 miles per hour. They've been gusting over 30 though. We've had Danville gusting over 40 as well. It's not showing up right now. There are some power issues in Southside as well. 31 miles per hour in the Martinsville area, and a lot of this is because we've had weaker trees and a lot of rain. You see there 47 at Danville before the sensor went away. So I believe that may be related to that band that just pushed in. You can see it right there as it moved north. They hit 47 miles per hour, and then the Danville sensor lost power, I believe, and that's the band that's now moving into Franklin County and moving up towards Lynchburg, and that's why they're at 41 miles per hour. But if you look down here across the Greensboro area too, if you're moving down from Eden down into the Piedmont, the western Piedmont of North Carolina, you can see a large area of 40 to 50 mile per hour gust, and that's pretty much around the center of this storm. I will show you here in just a second. In fact, I'll go ahead and pop it on this particular map here. We'll put the official cone up for you and the forecast models. And I know it's a little bit busy to see, but we'll stop it for you, and you can pretty much see what's going on here. Let me go back to my telestration here and find a color that'll stick out the best for you. So we'll choose orange, but this is pretty much coming right up the Roanoke Valley. And we talk about the center not being exactly where you see the worst weather, but in this case it really doesn't matter because you've got those far-reaching effects. But this is the cone from the National Hurricane Center, so all the different models that you see through here pretty much running right through Rocky Mount, Franklin County, Reedsboro, and Greensboro. Luckily, we have been somewhat chilly today, and that has diminished the tornado threat somewhat, although it still exists to the east. So we'll look at that right now, and I've got about 3 instances of this open. So let's see if I can find the one I'm looking for. Yeah, that's it. So what I've got plotted here are the values of temperature and where we see this coastal warm front. Notice that we're still only in the 40s in the mountains. You know there's some wild weather going on Basically, this is a setup we would have in a major snowstorm almost. You've got a low on the coast, a big blocking high to the north. It's funneling in the colder air here, so we're in the 40s across the mountains. But look out east, we're in the 70s, and it's warming up actually as this warmer air comes in off the ocean. So we're going from 77 degrees to 47 degrees. We've got a 30-degree differential just from the I-81 corridor down to eastern North Carolina and the Emerald Coast there. So Outer Banks getting hit very hard with some of these outer bands. Again, they're far away from the center. They'll continue to spiral in, but really it's the central basically what was the central dense overcast of the once hurricane, now a tropical storm, as it continues to move out of Raleigh and weakening into a depression that'll continue to bring us some heavier rain through 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I do think that rain's going to linger throughout the night, especially in the mountains. You see how far west it's getting there in the Tazewell and Bland counties. There will be a deformation zone here. So if you're watching from Wytheville, I-77 west, you may expect lots of rain. And again, some of the models, I put it out on Patreon, show up to 10 inches of rain locally. We do have flash or flood watches out for the entire area and the wind advisory out for that reason. So an impressive amount of temperature contrast. What I've got layered under here, this is where we have the tornado threat. For you folks that have vacation plans or some family along the coast, there still is quite a tornado threat where you see these elevated colors. That's pretty much taken into account the southeast winds. It's warm, and then aloft you've got winds coming in out of the south and out of the southwest, and that's what creates the spin that can give us the tornado. So it's right along that warm front. That's kind of hard to see, but this is the warm front. If I had to draw it right now, it only updates every few hours, but if I had to draw it right now, I'd put it probably right near Virginia Beach to Greenville to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and it occludes off there around the Kinston area. So this region here may shift into the rest of Hampton Roads, getting up to Roanoke Rapids, and I would watch out too around Petersburg, Virginia, and the Richmond, Virginia later on tonight. If you look very carefully there, you actually do see this dashed purple line here. This is where the Storm Prediction Center says we're still watching this area for possible tornadic development into tonight, because you're going to see these values begin to move back in off the ocean, and you can start to see those thunderstorms showing up, all that lightning data off to the west. But again, back here to the western part of the state, because temperatures are only in the 40s and 50s, it's mainly just a soaking rain, and we can actually stand to get some rain in this area. It's the amount within a certain amount of time that could cause the flooding issues out there. So I think that's the recent couple of weeks of dryness has really kind of helped us out a little bit from seeing widespread flooding, at least so far, but the winds are creating an issue out there. So I've got the radar on, our radar Omega, and what we're looking at here are the prediction cone from the National Hurricane Center. Again, it brings it right through Rocky Mount and in through the Roanoke Valley area. But what I'm going to do is overlay some stuff here for you. Pretty neat feature here to look at what the winds are doing. So I'll go to tropical weather, look at the current wind field, and you can start to get an idea of where the strongest winds are, and they are down through Stanford, getting into the Benson, Apex area, Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Greensboro, and the High Point, Halifax, and South Boston. That's where Danville had that 47 mile per hour wind. And so if you look and just follow that low inland, this remnant low or still tropical low that's becoming extra tropical, you're going to continue to see the heavier rain pick up over the next couple of hours from Lynchburg, Rocky Mount, and the Roanoke Valley area. And we're even looking at high winds on the ridgetops from Lewisburg and the Covington, and a lot of wind there west. And there you see it just updated there. I can also show you the probabilities of wind. Let me go in here, tropical weather, and we'll go back to wind probability. We'll look at tropical storm force winds, and we'll overlay that and make it very visible there for you. So now we've got the track on, but you can see, and what I might do is take the track off. Hold on 1 second here. And again, please share this out so folks can get an idea of what to expect, because this is going to be something that if you were not prepared, you definitely may be a little bit surprised by how bad it gets in your area tonight. But as this continues to move to the north and to the west, It's not quite moving into Bristol like we thought it might. It's actually coming up through Rocky Mount. But again, it really doesn't matter. You're looking at those tropical storm force winds going all the way up to Livingston, Amherst, and Lexington. And especially on these ridge tops that we're seeing across the Parkway and in the Mountain Empire, the cooler air will protect the valleys somewhat. But those ridge tops are going to get those 50-mile-per-hour winds and are probably already getting them now, judging by the power outages. So this will continue to kind of bring in those higher winds that are down to the south and associated with what the hurricane did earlier from Myrtle Beach all the way to Charleston. Unfortunately, it re-strengthened and moved back inland. So we've got an inland tropical storm with winds of 39 to 56 miles per hour. No tropical storm warnings up for the immediate Virginia area, but if you move past Winston-Salem, Greensboro is actually in a tropical storm warning, as is High Point, throughout the night tonight. The rest of the area under a wind advisory through noon tomorrow for up to 40-mile-per-hour winds. Now, that's not as much as 56, but when you consider the fact that the ground's going to be kind of soggy, trees are running with some issues out there as well. I've got one more graphic here on WSV3 that I wanted to show you. This is the local radar picture, and underneath I've got some purple there. Those are the winds at around 5,000 feet. So if we look at our mountaintops, if you live on top of a mountain, Afton Mountain there, and going a little bit higher up to Mount Rogers, we're looking at winds of nearly 60 miles per hour and 75 miles per hour, already up to 80 some miles per hour. Now that's not reaching the ground, but it gives you an idea as this system continues to move to the north and to the west. It gives you an idea that some of these mountaintops through West Virginia are dealing with 50 to 60 mile per hour winds, whereas the valleys you see here, I've got the wind gusts around Roanoke and Lynchburg and other areas there are about 41 miles per hour to 26 miles per hour respectively. But if you go up in elevation just a bit, we can probe that, and I can show you that there's actually a lot more wind once you get just off the surface because of less friction that's occurring. And that's what's doing a lot of the concern out there for the wind advisory, and the National Weather Service has that wind advisory up for that reason. So just above our heads, we're at hurricane strength as this continues to move in. In this red area is the unstable air. You see the joules per kilogram there. That's where we're seeing the tornado threat from Elizabeth City through Raleigh. And again, the tornado threat will stay from Richmond, maybe up to Chase City, but I don't think it really gets to Danville. It may thunder in Danville later, but we are already seeing some squally weather. And we already do have a couple of flood advisories out here for us too. Let me get rid of the radar and I'll show you those. Flood advisory is out for, let's get rid of this layer as well, for Patrick County and Hendry County as well. And we've got numerous flood advisories out throughout North Carolina. You know, as soon as I mentioned the one in Henry and Patrick County, it kind of went away, but we do have flash flood warning with considerable damage possible there from Raleigh into Smithfield. There will be more flood advisories as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon or the rest of tonight. I've got my days and nights mixed up because that's just how I've been doing here lately, judging the weather here. But we'll read a few of these reports with you too. Got trees down on Church Road. You go down a little bit farther, tree down, Reedsville, numerous trees down here. This doesn't appear to be quite as updated as some of my other windows. Let me go back up and see if I've got some new storm reports there coming in. We'll add these to the list. And it looks like the program I'm using gets rid of these a little bit sooner than some of these other programs. So I thought I had, let me pull up my laptop again. So here's a look at the radar, and again you can see those really heavier bands coming in. So I'm going to go over to my laptop now and kind of query some of these local storm reports, and you can follow these on Twitter as well. But look at all the storm reports down through Henry County where we're seeing those heavy bands move in there. Tree down on Williamstone Highway. We've got trees down around Spencer, tree on the pole. Numerous trees coming down as I speak, and you can hear them over the scanner. So that's why we're seing all of the road closures there and the power outages as well. So this is going to be the worst of it, I think, into the rest of tonight as this band continues to redevelop. The center is still down here south of Ashboro, and what's happening is the storm is going to slow down into the next 6 to 12 hours and pretty much stall over the area. You can also see here this area here in green. This is where the Weather Prediction Center is concerned for more heavy rain and flooding into the night tonight. And that includes all of the area pretty much except for south side, although I really think all of us are under the flood threat right now. But as we get into the near term here, that band's going to continue to move on in. And we will see, as I overlay the radar, these bands that are going to be moving in from the south and west are going to cause more flooding issues. We've got just some ponding issues right now, but we're going to add to that, I think, as the ground becomes more and more saturated. Let us look at, we've got the power outages. This is VDOT, which is a great tool to look at wind speeds, actually. They've got a pretty neat site. You can go on there and you can see what's going on, and I'll move that up for you just a little bit. I can move this around too. The colors represent where the highest winds are being picked up by the actual sensor. Sometimes when you're riding on the side of the road, you will see these sensors here. But we've got a 35 mile per hour gust by the VDOT sensor anyway around Danville, and you can see in and around this area, all these icons are different areas where we've got road closures. Route 640 in Campbell County, a number of Pennsylvania County roads are closed. Number of roads in Bedford County are closed. We've actually got, looks like something going on there on 460 even. And we've got quite a bit of debris and road reports coming in out of Patrick County. This area particularly hard hit because of the terrain. And look what's going on I-77. I know that's a little bit hard to see. Let me zoom this in. And again, please be sharing this out because views will drop off as I continue live here. People get bored or whatever, and I understand that. But there's some important information that I'm going to try to get out here if I can get this window a little bit bigger. Look at this. We've got 57 mile per hour winds showing up on I-77 right now. Wind speed of 32, gusting to 57 out of the north with a temperature of 53. And let's see if we can pull a camera up and see that. So you can see cars going with their flashers. It's pouring down rain. The wind's coming down in sheets here. You can see it blowing across there, and we've been gusting to over tropical storm force. This is I-77 coming out of North Carolina at mile marker 2.7. Very dangerous conditions on I-77 tonight. Anywhere I-64, I would imagine, would also be dangerous too. 36 mile per hour winds on the sensor here. If we go a little bit farther up, it looks a little bit brighter, but we're still dealing with some heavier rain and some power going out there. But this I-77 stretch, really looking at some delays there due to weather. The south right lane and right shoulder are closed here because there's some tree damage everywhere you see the icon. And notice the traffic there in red, that's where things have slowed to a crawl due to all the wind out there. Let's pull this camera up. This is at mile marker 3.3 there in I-77 coming out of Carroll County. You see again, everybody's using their blinkers because it's pouring down rain. It's hard to see. A lot of the power's out in this area, so you may not be able to see very far. You can see kind of in the distance just trees and not really picking up a lot in the way of power poles or anything like that. Of course, it's a rural area as well. But fallen trees can be very dangerous because you can't see them until you come up on them. So as you go throughout the night tonight, beware. There's going to be some trees out in the road and some debris out, and you may be the person that discovers that for the first time, and so you don't want to be called out in that at all. Here we go. This is what I wanted to show you here. You can see again that very heavy band and a little bit of a curl here to the radar signature coming out of Bedford County. Now this is probably some rotation aloft we don't have the connection to the ground to worry about tornadoes because we are only 54 degrees in Roanoke. But we've got in Franklin County, a tree down on Morgan's Mill Drive causing a road closure. There have been numerous trees down in Franklin County. Campbell County, again, on Wise Carver Road, causing a road closure there. Look at all the Henry County reports we've got coming in. Again, from Henry, the community of Henry, and the Stanleytown, and horse pasture as well. Kind of going through here and looking at Aiken Summit and Ridgeway near Danville too. Also some trees down in Milton in that area. And in Floyd County, since we've got more elevation here, we're picking up some of those 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts. I imagine they're near the Parkway. So we've got train spotters reporting trees, plural, trees down near Black Ridge Road. There's going to be a lot of trees down on the Parkway. There'll probably be parts of the Parkway closed into the weekend, unfortunately, if you have any plans out there. Now in Lynchburg, we are not exempt from this because, again, the winds have spread very far out. Near Forest, we've got a tree down on Everett Road, and we've got another tree down in Rustburg, 3 miles southwest of Rustburg. But impossible to name all the trees, but just to show you that the rain is still getting heavier, so we're going to be dealing with trees and flooding going into the rest of the night. This is the HER model that takes, again, the core of the storm through the area overnight, but the most rain is on the northwest side of that. So as we approach the 2-3 o'clock hour, the heaviest of rain will have shifted into the mountainous areas, and the Piedmont may actually dry up a little bit. I'm going to say that we're still going to see some rain probably into Saturday and Sunday. You can see that northeasterly fetch there because we have got a big blocking high that doesn't want to move. So I'm going to show it to you right here. The low pressure area is Ian, and let's go to right now. So we've got about right there. You see how the pressures are filling in. So it is, again, weakening. But again, the problem is this big high pressure area is centered across the Great Lakes. And this is almost what you would see in a snowstorm. Again, you've got that high funneling down this colder air into our area, but it's also acting as a blockade from Ian not being able to make it very far to the north at all. So it's going to come up into the mountains, and it's going to kind of stall overnight tonight. So wherever these rain bands decide to set up from West Virginia into Southwest Virginia, that's where we're looking at the potential for over 6 inches of rain. The rest of us, I'd say 2 to 6 inches would cover most of it, and some areas will stay on the lower end of that. But in the favored upslope areas, if you're a patron, you saw that yesterday there were some 10-inch totals there near Cahays Mountain into Bent Mountain and western Franklin County into Patrick County because of the Parkway sitting like that and the wind hitting the Parkway perpendicular, causing the air to lift, rise up, and enhance those rainfall amounts. But the overall picture is one that doesn't move this thing until later on into the weekend and maybe even into Monday. You can see the pressures do fill in, but we still do have the overall area of low pressure still in this area, so you still have a bit of a cool, moist fetch there coming off the Atlantic that'll keep you kind of cloudy and cool tomorrow with numerous showers around. And we are starting to see trends that are clearing us out a little bit faster, or trying to move this out to sea as early as Sunday into Monday. But as I look at some of these other models here, especially the GFS, it still hangs some light showers into the area into the weekend. So let's rewind it here. You're dealing with the worst of it right now. And then as we go through the night tonight, it really starts to pour down rain over the next several hours. Now, tomorrow morning will be probably the worst time to be out and about on the roads because we're going to have numerous road closures. We're going to have numerous areas that are either flooded or blocked by power lines. Some of those could be live power lines. Some of those could just be big trees that are going to take a while to remove. Some of them will be smaller branches that will be coming down still because of the wind. As we go through the day on Saturday, the precipitation shifts into West Virginia, and you're going to have rain all the way up into Pennsylvania with this. You can see those heavier squalls coming into Delmarva. Those could have tornadoes in them because this system is, again, expanding. Now, with time, this is Sunday, we open up the dry air a little bit, and we start to get a little bit more in the way of sunny breaks to develop in here. And you would say, okay, well, that's a good thing, Jamie. We've got some sunshine working in. That would be really good to kind of break this into more scattered activity, right? Well, that is right in one case, but we are still going to be dealing with some wind shear. So if we do have any bands of rain at this point, if any sun came out Sunday or Monday, it would potentially be a bad thing because we could see spinning storms as a result of some wind shear because of that. So we would also have the spin, but we would also worry about some high rainfall rates as temperatures warm. So in this case, the warmer the air, and as the system continues to weaken, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because you would add the instability. Now, Monday is clearing out a little sooner than it looked, but the low kind of just hangs here off the coast here. This is off the GFS model. The Euro has a actually this is the Euro. The GFS has it very similar. Hangs out here off the eastern seaboard, and you've got an upper level trough still anchored over the area. These are the lines in the upper levels, so the jet stream's still dipping over the area on Tuesday, October the 4th. So there could be still some scattered showers around, and again, maybe a heavier thunderstorm as well. We'll have to wait and see what kind of air mass we get in here. The HER model, again, showing all that heavy rain and the swirling nature of it, and those 10-inch amounts that I posted on Patreon are because of the swirl hitting right through here. So it's from Franklin County and the Roanoke County, Bedford to Big Island, the front edge of the parkway there, east facing. We'll see the most rain out of this. And then the overall general area where the rain wraps in and just sits, that's the deformation zone where the air kind of spreads out in all directions. That's another area that's going to pick up a lot of rain. And unfortunately, this area right here through Pulaski, Blacksburg, and the Wytheville, this area is somewhat dry, but if you look at the overall pattern, we're so much drier here than we are in the mountains. So the mountains have had the most rain over the past couple of weeks, and they're more tender. So that's why I think the NRV could flood, and parts of the area could experience some flash flooding into tonight. And I'll be up all night watching that. This is looking at, let's see, this is looking at the early morning hours now, mainly just a cool rain, but the potential for some heavier rain still existing with that curve that you're seeing there. That's the HER getting out of the range of what's happening. So it's doing its best to estimate what'll be happening there. Looking at the winds, again, this is pretty much a now cast, but I did want to give you kind of a heads up that we're still looking at those high wind speeds there going. Let me go back into the Greensboro area. I think I can do that here. We'll go in really tight. This is the stuff I normally post on Patreon, but you can see that it's doing a pretty good job of showing you in Carroll County there on I-77 where we just had that 57 mile per hour gust. And it's picked up on that. So we've also got gusty winds going through Henry County, 40 to 50 miles per hour, up to 60 through Greensboro. And again, that's happening right now. That'll continue now through the night tonight. So this is looking at, we're looking at a accumulated wind speed through about 4 or 5 in the morning, and even up into Lynchburg, again, 56 to 47 miles per hour from 460 in the Bedford, and especially up on the parkway there, Afton Mountain, higher elevations, ridge tops, definitely seeing, excuse me, a lot of wind. The tornado threat, frog in the throat, stand by. The tornado threats there in eastern Virginia, and you can see that mainly east of Raleigh, moves into Virginia Beach and up the bay here as we go throughout the rest of the night, but it does weaken somewhat because we're in night and the temperatures are a little cooler. But if you are worried about tornadoes, I'd watch out from Richmond to Virginia Beach down 64 into the Chesapeake Bay area. That's where our tornado threat is. And earlier I was thinking this may move into our area more. But what's happened is the cooler air that's been coming down has pretty much made a wedge that's protected the surface. So it's like a protective dome. And you want, for a tornado, you need your thunderstorm base to connect with the ground. So this area here has the best chance of seeing the tornadoes where you see the colors. And this is going through the rest of tonight into the early morning hours of your Saturday. And so that's a dangerous time because most people are fast asleep by that time or just getting up early. And again, that's going to include the Delmarva area too, and the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, waterspouts, all that stuff. Very, very possible. The new NAM has a very similar look to it, showing us the heaviest rain going through midnight tonight into 1 o'clock. And again, if you look at the radar, it's already moving in now, but it should redevelop somewhat in bands as we continue through the night. There will be an overall lessening of intensity into the early morning hours of tomorrow, but there'll be a lot of rivers and creeks and streams that may be out of their banks, or at least approaching bank full, depending on the exact location of those bands throughout the rest of the evening. This is the upper level map where rain would form, and where you see the purple, that's the center of Ian becoming extratropical over the area. This is valid from the Euro. This is valid tomorrow afternoon. Notice the big dry slot that's wrapped in here too. So there may be some sunnier breaks that get in here over the next couple of days, but the overall swirl doesn't move all that much. It just kind of sits over the area in the Sunday and into Monday. There's some drier air up here to the north, but we're still in this disturbed weather that could keep some showers and thunderstorms around, at least some showers around into Sunday or Monday. But we'll have to watch, and I'm going to have to keep an eye on this to see if we have any heavy rainmakers from that activity before all this finally kicks out of here for Tuesday. You see that moving off the coast there. But we're really looking at a blocking pattern, so it really doesn't want to do just that. You can see the Weather Prediction Center kind of showing you what's going on now as we go through Saturday morning. The low's right on top of us at 8 o'clock. You see that dry slot moving in. Now, what could happen too along this front is we could start to see some warmer air moving in overnight tonight into tomorrow afternoon. And again, that could get some stronger storms going and maybe even some rotation there as close as I-64 tomorrow. We'll have to watch that too. Going into 0Z Sunday, which would be 8 p.m. Saturday, still raining in areas, and really still hanging around for much of Sunday into Monday, but the intensity will be dying off of this. I think this will be more of a light to moderate rain, and again, we can put up with that. If you want to see how much rain we can take, I do encourage you to go to my Patreon page at Patreon, look up Jamie Singleton. I've got a post that will show you how much rain we can get before things get out of hand. There's actual values that you can look up. The supercell composite, this is where the tornado threat is now, and again, it's edging into eastern Virginia near Fredericksburg and Charlottesville, but a lot of that is not quite connected to the ground. This is the actual effective significant tornado parameter showing a smaller area there. But lots of water in the air and lots of vectors here. The bigger, the longer the vector, the stronger the wind, and you can see that tropical layer is able to hold 1 inch to over 2 inches of rain in it, and you can go back in time and see how that's been swirling in there as well. So continuing to watch this very, very carefully. Let me make sure I haven't left anything out that I wanted to go over with you. Just continuing to watch all of this very heavy rain moving in. Now some very heavy rain over Rocky Mount in the Franklin County and right there in the Patrick County. And again, what really concerned me earlier was looking at the VDOT cameras there on I-77. Some of these higher ridge tops are experiencing winds that are again approaching hurricane strength, if not over hurricane strength in some locations there. So you can see that it's definitely an active time. And if you are a patron, you were able to get about 7 days heads up. I think I posted last Friday that there would be impact from this and heavy rain and possible wind damage, and you can see that certainly has verified in many areas. So it does pay that $1 a month goes toward all this data that I'm showing you, and my power is now blinking. Let me go. Getting a lot of blinks now. We're starting to see these bands begin to pick up 35 miles per hour in Martinsville to Danville. And